I was late pushing the button, Mo. Man, oh man.
That's all right. We're all good. Hey, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you hesitate to press the JG button. I get it.
I know. Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook or you're on Roku TV watching us with the fine folks over at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, thank you for being my partner every morning. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. Having a wonderful day already. Got up bright and early. Hung out with the wife for a little bit before she bounced to work. So I'm having a ball.
Mo, I'm going to do something. I didn't think I'd ever do this. I'm kind of surprised I did it. I actually did it yesterday. We just didn't talk about it on the show. I did a little bit of it on the Facebook page over at Wire to Wire Network. If you're not following Wire to Wire Network on Facebook, you need to go do that. So when I do things on the Facebook page, you can see it. But Mo, what I did yesterday was I defended Cam Newton. I don't know if I've ever done that. So that's kind of crazy. And it's funny because there's another segment in the show where I'm not going to defend him. So it's going to be a weird Cam Newton morning for me this morning.
So it's a balanced out Cam Newton.
It is. Right? We're going to balance out the world of Cam Newton for me today. So in case you missed it, Cam Newton is in the news because over the weekend he was in a physical altercation at a 7-on-7 football tournament. Background story: Cam Newton, he owns I don't know what the best way to put that is. But he has a 7-on-7 football program. It's called C1N. Obviously, Cam Newton are his initials, and the 1 is the number he wore in the NFL. And he does this cool thing. He gives back to his community. He is, mentoring youth football players. It's pretty awesome, if you ask me.
It is.
And back in 2020, he had this pair of brothers that worked for him. And then in 2022, there was a falling out of some sorts. The brothers went their separate way. They formed their own 7-on-7 thing. And over the last couple of years, I guess they've had some success against C1N and Cam Newton. And that success continued into this past weekend on Saturday, where they beat his team or one of his teams. I'm sure he has multiple under his umbrella with these young men. And Sunday comes around, and Cam was being Cam. Cam was trying to put money on the game. Cam was kind of mocking them a little bit. During the game, Cam's up in the audience saying, "You're running my plays. You got success because of me. I'm your daddy." And, he's being a little ridiculous. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, Mo, have you ever been to an AAU basketball game?
I have.
Yeah. You hear this nonsense, whether it's coaches or it's the moms or it's the dads or it's the auntie and the uncle who are.
There's a lot of chatter.
There's a lot of noise coming from the stands in the AAU basketball games or these football games or these baseball and softball games. And in this situation, Cam Newton is not former NFL quarterback MVP Cam Newton. Cam Newton is, I coach rec football. I coach youth football. I have a stake in this game. I run one of the teams that's part of this tournament. And for me, that's what happens at these things. People talk a little bit. People taunt a little bit. People are a little extra. And, I'm hearing all the reports of what Cam Newton was saying in the stands. And I'm like, and what were the other parents saying? What were the other, you know what I mean? Like, what were the other coaches saying?
Right.
To me, Cam Newton was doing what, and I'm not saying it's not obnoxious. I'm not saying it's not annoying, Mo. I'm sure it was. But I'm pretty sure Cam Newton was doing some of the same nonsense that you probably saw from a lot of different adults during this weekend event. And obviously the 2 brothers who have history with Cam Newton were not a fan of it. And one of the brothers approached and confronted Cam after Sunday's game about his taunting. And I guess Cam got some of his players to taunt their players as well. And he confronted Cam about it. And he was up in Cam's face. And Cam put his hands on the guy's chest, Don't know why. Maybe to get some space, maybe to reassert his point. I have no idea. And then the other brother came in and punched Cam Newton. And then it kind of de-escalated from there. But Mo, for me, this happened because it was Cam Newton. If it was any other guy, Mo, if it was you doing the same stuff that Cam Newton did, and instead of saying things like, those are my plays, if you were saying things like, those are Cam's plays, Cam made those plays, Cam Newton made you, Cam Newton's your daddy, and you're all the same stuff and making all the same implications, but you weren't Cam Newton, I don't think they approach you after the game. I don't think they confront you after the game. I sure as hell don't think that brother number 2 is swinging at you after the game. But because it was Cam Newton, and because, and I find it fascinating, and I said this on Facebook, you already beat Cam's team. You've been beating Cam Newton's team. Apparently, you left Cam Newton's organization, made your own team, and your team has won like 3 or 4 times in a row against Cam Newton's guys. And in some of those games, you've outcoached Cam Newton. Like you've beaten teams he's been coaching. On Saturday, you beat Cam Newton's team. So as far as the on the field stuff goes, Mo, these brothers are killing it.
Right, they win.
They're beating Cam Newton left and right. But Cam Newton still made it seem like he was winning. Cam Newton still made it seem like he was the guy. Cam Newton still made it seem like Cam Newton was number 1. And isn't that what Cam Newton is best at? Isn't Cam Newton the best at making it seem like he is number 1, even in situations when he's not number 1? So again, Mo, I go back to what I just said. You swung on Cam Newton because at the end of the day, beating Cam Newton's team on the field didn't make you feel good enough. You still felt like you had something to prove. You still felt like Cam Newton was getting the better of you, so you had to go talk to him after the game. That's a you issue. That's not a Cam Newton issue. I'm sorry that Cam Newton made you feel less, even though you were basically whooping him inside and out when it came to what we were all supposed to be doing here, which was youth football. In the world of youth football, you were Cam Newton's daddy. You'd owned him the last 4 or 5 games.
Right.
Like your teams were doing their thing. You were putting it on Cam, but you let Cam get in your head.
And he's good at that.
And you walked away thinking that Cam had something on you. So you had to go take care of it. And then punches were thrown. And by the way, Mo, Cam Newton didn't even lose his hat in that fracas. All that nonsense that went down, the man's hat didn't even move. So clearly, you didn't really get much on Cam if the man didn't even lose his hat.
Right.
At the end of the day, Cam is still Cam. Cam still has Cam money. Cam still has Cam swag. The one thing you had on Cam was you beat him on the field. But now it doesn't really matter because you swung at him. And you stooped to a level that was kind of lower than what Cam was doing to you. And that's what's getting attention now. And I get it. You're coming out and saying, well, he said that. It doesn't look good for you. That doesn't, he said he's your daddy? So you try to beat him up in the parking lot? Like, it's one thing if, the story is, Cam Newton is such a terrible, and he's had this story before. Cam Newton is such a terrible role model. All these kids are around. He's saying things like, I'm your daddy and all this.
Right.
Oh, that story writes itself. That story wrote itself in the NFL. You might recall a woman back when he was a Carolina Panther, 2014, 2015, wrote a letter to the league, got a lot of national attention about how her son saw Cam Newton grab himself and pelvic thrust and all this other nonsense, and he should be a role model, and his behavior on the sideline is disgusting. And it was a story for a hot minute back in the mid-2010s. But that's not the story here. The story here is your brother came up while you guys were arguing and sucker punched him. You don't walk away from this if you're the brothers looking good. You already did what you needed to do, Mo. You already owned him on the field, but it wasn't good enough. And for me, that says more about you than it does about Cam Newton.
Agreed. They had the high ground. They had beaten him. You won the game. Now, Cam could have still been chirping, but you could have just focused on scoreboard, right? And rolled with that. And I think that what Cam is really good at doing is he's really good at doing petty. He's really good at getting in guys' head, right? Cam is good at saying, like, at the end of the day, I actually played pro football. I actually won an MVP. I've been to a Super Bowl. You're still not me. I mean, Cam doesn't lack for confidence or degree of arrogance, and good for him. Look, I think that the Cam Newton that you see on his podcast, I think that's the same Cam Newton that we saw throughout his career. And look, the guy doesn't lack for confidence. He's got his own style of gear, his own style of swag. I have no problem with you being that confident. And I don't think Cam's the villain in this. His team lost. He continued to chirp, and they lost the high ground by stooping down and attacking him. And the story should have been their team beating his team and how well their team had played. And the story became about them and what they did and how that looks overall. And that's the problem.
In the comments, Cottrell is 100% right. When this story first broke over the weekend, the early versions of this story was that Cam Newton got into a physical altercation with one of the young athletes at the field. Right. Because when you watch some of the first videos that came out of this, it looked like Cam was roughing up a little kid. Is what it looked like.
Right, but isn't that more about Cam's a big man, right?
It is.
That's what it is. He's a big man. And so if he's slinging people all over the place, it looks like a giant amongst boys or whatever. But that's just the nature of the beast. And yeah, the initial stories, I read some of those where Cam Newton's gets into altercation with teenagers, and no, those are grown men.
Those are grown men.
You just don't realize just how big a man Cam Newton is.
And this is not NFL Cam Newton. When he was playing them, he was bigger.
Right.
So let's not forget that.
Right. This is not peak Cam Newton. Right. Agreed.
Mo, we got JG here on the show this morning. Before we get to JG, our next segment with JG is sponsored by Sports Empire Network. If you're not checking out what's happening over there at Sports Empire Network, Mo and I strongly encourage you to do that.
Absolutely.
Lots of great stuff happening over at the Empire. But as I do every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday morning here on the morning show, I'm going to press the JG button, and we're going to get JG here on the show with us this morning. JG, how are you, sir?
Morning, guys. Morning. How y'all doing?
Hey, pretty good. Doing well.
JG, spring training continues to push on in Major League Baseball. So there's a bunch of different things coming from a bunch of different directions. I want to start with the Dodgers this morning. Apparently, the Dodgers just print their own money. They continue to sign players for seemingly no reasons. They signed Kiki Hernandez to a 1-year, $4 million contract. At the same time, they ship out Margot and decide that they're going to pay like $6 million of his contract just for funsies, even though he's not playing there anymore. When are the Dodgers going to run out of money, JG? Because now, I mean, they're paying for other players for seemingly no reason. They're bringing in utility players and just giving them $4 or $5 million a clip. What are the Dodgers doing over there? Does luxury tax not matter to them? Does payroll not matter to them? Is this just the New York Yankees from the 90s?
Essentially, yeah. You've got to experience that quite a bit in the 90s and early 2000s of what the Yankees and just how they conducted business. The Dodgers are doing no different, and they're saying that we have a window. We have a window right now with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. We have a window with Walker Buehler as our ace. Let's go spend money within this window and try to increase that window. Instead of being maybe a 3-year window, we turn into a 6-year window. And by doing so, you got to spend money. You got to spend money, and if you want to be able to compete now, that's what they're doing. We said that about the Yankees so many years that they had to continue to spend money to keep that window open as long as possible. The Dodgers are no exception, and it's remarkable really how much they're doing it, and they're doing it in creative ways. Again, we talk about the Ohtani contract with the deferred, the $600 million deferred is what he's going to be getting after 10 years, after the 10-year contract. They're doing it in such creative ways. Now, what I feel will happen, especially, and we talked about this before, if they don't win in this window, what do? Do you continue to spend money? Because that is a question that they're going to have to answer, is how are they going to continue to conduct their business? Active payroll for 2024, they're at $260 million, $260 million. My goodness, that's way above and beyond what this in the next team and what their payroll is. They're doing it. We could be seeing, if things continue to progress this way, we could see the Dodgers be around $300 million spent on season payroll. And I don't even know what that may look like. If we, I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If we even had a team reach $300 million on a season payroll, I don't even know. But yeah, they're finding ways to print money. Again, that luxury tax, I know it's going to be hitting them pretty hard. And I mean, hell, even I'll go a little further. The California state tax, I'm sure, is going to be hitting them pretty hard and hitting them players. But they find ways to print more.
JG, this kind of took me by surprise. One of the biggest conversations in Major League Baseball yesterday amongst the fans was clothing. So apparently a few days ago we had Pantgate in Major League Baseball. Not sure where I was for this. I completely missed Pantgate. But apparently the pants are see-through, and players are upset that the pants are see-through. Major League Baseball came back and said, guys, they're the same pants. Nothing weird is happening with the pants. It's the same pants we always use. And then Major League Baseball went and they changed the back of the jerseys. And now the spacing of the letters and the names on the back of the jerseys is different. And people are up in arms about this, JJ. They are not a fan of the new way the spacing of the letters on the back of the jerseys are. Listen, baseball is interesting because fans just like it the way it is. They don't like people messing with anything in regards to baseball, and that includes what they wear and how it looks. I just wanted to get your real quick insight on Pantgate, and then, of course, the spacing of the names on the back of the jerseys.
Well, I'll say that this is why Major League Baseball has a hard time gaining new fans, because it is a traditionalist sport. For 150 years, we talk about this 150 years. Rules of Major League Baseball has been tweaked here and there, but for the most part, it's been the same game for 150 years. Traditionalists love it the way it is. I'm a traditionalist. I love the game the way it is. Uniforms are the same way. Do not mess with the classics. Do not mess with certain areas of a uniform that has been around for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. I'll use my Braves example. I am not a fan of the 80s Braves powder blue uniforms. I never liked them. I hear fans say, man, what if the Braves got the powder blue uniforms again back from the – No, I hope they don't, because that is not who we are. That is not our colors. Again, could you imagine a Yankee uniform without the pinstripes?
Nope.
So it's a tradition. Baseball is all about the tradition, but the casual fan has a hard time understanding it, because casual fans don't mind change. Traditional fans absolutely mind change. And now we're talking about these uniforms where there's certain aspects are different of it. And that's Nike doing it because, again, what's the bet? How do you make more money if you're Nike and MLB? Well, you change the uniforms in certain areas to make people buy new ones. So it's all about the money, and it's not a secret in what they're trying to do and what Nike's been doing. Has it worked? Not really, because again, people still buy them, and so if you want to say in that aspect, people still buy them, okay, then it's worked. But it's causing a lot of commotion and a lot of takeaway away from the game itself. Spring training started, and we're talking about pants and jerseys instead of talking about the players on the field and playing the game. That's where Major League Baseball continues to get in their way with how they conduct themselves. We don't hear this stuff with the NFL. We don't hear about, the teams that we hear about it in before training camp in NFL, where if a team changes their uniforms, they change it in May. They change it in May, a month before training camps, or a month and a half before training camp starts. That way, it doesn't take away the ire of what training camp is supposed to be about the players and being back and competing. Major League Baseball dropped the ball on this, doing the uniforms right around spring training. You should have done this in December and January, where you could have created a little bit of talk. You have a month to go for it, and then you go play ball from there. It's the one thing I do not like about how Major League Baseball continues to get in their way on the PR side of things instead of just making it about the game and the players. do something, change the uniforms, get Nike to kind of get things back to what they were supposed to be and what it's been for a long time. But at the same time, it's a nonsense conversation.
JG, growing up as a baseball fan, for me, the premier position, the premier spot on the baseball field, the quarterback in the world of Major League Baseball was shortstop, right? So I was a Yankee fan. So for me, Derek Jeter was the end-all be-all. He was the captain. He was everything that I wanted to be when I was playing youth baseball. Obviously, as I got older as an adult, you look back at Derek Jeter and you see his numbers more realistically. And you see his numbers maybe in a different light than you did as a 13, 14, or 15-year-old. But it doesn't change the allure that the shortstop spot and the position was for me as a teenager. Looking at baseball today, do you think that baseball has gone away from the glory of the shortstop position? Do you think that we just don't have as many big names at the shortstop position as we did back in the late 90s and early 2000s? So by default, you can't prop up a position when you don't have the star value behind the position, because who is the face of Major League Baseball? Acuna, Judge, Ohtani, Harper, none of them play shortstop. So is it just a situation where early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s, when you had Jeter and A-Rod and Nomar Garciaparra, they all played shortstop. So since they all played shortstop, that's where the focus and attention was. Now you're looking at the majority of your big stars, they play outfield. So we're not saying outfield is necessarily a glamour position, but they just don't play shortstop. So as a result, is that where we are? Where do you stand on that shift? Because you, even with kids growing up today who want to play baseball, I don't necessarily think they're all saying, oh, I want to be a shortstop now, like they were, 10 or 15 years ago. You follow baseball a lot closer than Mo and I do. Where have you seen the evolution of that position over the last 10 or 15 years?
That's a fair question to ask. And yes, again, we grew up in the golden era of shortstops. What do you say? With Jeter and A-Rod, Nomar, you had, I'll throw out some other names in there that weren't really at that level, but you had Edgar Renteria, you had Omar Vizquel being one of them. You had guys that were high recognized names during that time period that again, it was just prominent to that position. And it's not that way anymore. And again, and it's supposed to be, because teams, we talk about this as a coaching staff here at Rich Mountain, we have to build from up the middle. Well, up the middle it means shortstop. So it's catcher, pitcher, shortstop, center field. Everything has to be built up the middle. During the 90s, you had that a lot. You had the premium shortstops and premium center fielders, i.e. King Griffey Jr. being one of them back in the day. Today, again, the center field position, you just say the same thing. It's kind of fallen off a little bit, especially since Mike Trout has not been able to stay healthy and be the great baseball player he is. You name Ronald Acuna, right fielder. You name Juan Soto, who's the left fielder, right fielder, corner out. Bryce Harper was a corner outfielder for a while too. Aaron Judge is really supposed to be a corner outfielder who can play center field. So the center field and shortstop positions both have kind of been a little bit devalued. I would say a little bit for center field, but for shortstop, it has been devalued in regards of name recognition and prominence, because who would you say is the big name in today's position? Because I'll give you an example of why it has been devalued. Manny Machado was a shortstop in the coming up, going into the reminders, and they moved him to third base. And they tried to put him back at shortstop, couldn't play shortstop. He was a third baseman, which that's the scouts' take, that he was a third baseman. Okay, great job on their part for doing so, but is he not a face? Is he, he's one of the high-profile names in baseball. Why would you not want him at shortstop? Well, they moved him. They kept him at third base from there. So that kind of tells you a little bit as far as it's not viewed as such anymore, where if you're a name, you play shortstop back in the 90s and early 2000s. And today, that's not the case. So, again, Francisco Lindor is probably one of the top. I think you could probably say Jackson Holliday coming up in the minors, who's going to be here in the big leagues either 2024 or 2025 for sure. He'll be a future name. Bobby Witt Jr. You got guys who are coming up that are becoming names. And I'm not talking about Lindor and that. Lindor's been around for a long time. He's been a very good shortstop throughout his career. But you potentially could have the next generation of shortstops kind of start tweaking the the perception back to that. But for a while, over the last 5 to 10 years, 100% that shortstops have been devalued in regards of what they bring to the team. Carlos Correa, for example, he, again, wanted the $300 million contract. He kind of sort of got it with the Giants, flagged his physical. The Mets did the same thing, and now he went down and got a cheaper deal. And I use the term loosely, cheaper deal, but it wasn't what he was expecting to be able to get on the market, which that is what it is. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing with certain shortstop positions. Lindor's question on his his contract, not what he expected he was going to get too. So there is a devalue to the position, but I think with the next generation coming up, we could potentially see the value of shortstops go back, because as we get more towards the old school thought process back, and we're heading in that direction again. I think with the analytics and the new school thought process, they devalued shortstops. I think as we continue to go back to the old school ways a little bit here and there, we may see shortstops' value go back up.
And JG, do you think part of it is this idea that we like players who can play everywhere? We like a player that can play 3 positions in the infield. We like a player that can play up the middle, but he can also play corner outfield. So do you think that that's part of it as well, that you're seeing more players that can play everywhere? Let's be honest, Derek Jeter was not playing outfield. It wasn't happening, right? Like that wasn't going to happen. Sure, I think he played second base a little bit for a few situations, but Derek Jeter was playing shortstop. That was his spot. But today you see guys kind of moved all around throughout the 162 game schedule, just based on who's injured. We want to get our lefty in the lineup, who's pitching today. Shifts have moved people around as well. Obviously, MLB's pulled back on that a little bit. But do you think that is also part of this equation?
Yeah, I mean, again, go back to into the 90s era, 90s and early 2000s era. Cal Ripken Jr. moved to third base because he couldn't move as well to play shortstop anymore. It was a necessity at his point of his career. He'd go play third base to try to extend his career. A-Rod moved to third base because he signed with the Yankees. If A-Rod goes to Boston, remember we saw the documentary that if he went to Boston, he was going to be a shortstop. They were going to trade Nomar Garciaparra. They were going to trade him, and they were going to say, okay, A-Rod's our shortstop. If he stayed in Texas, he was going to be a shortstop. So the only reason why he moved to third base is obviously because you're not putting the captain anywhere else other than shortstop in the Bronx. That wasn't going to happen unless you want to riot down outside of Yankee Stadium. In today's game, I'll go with an example as far as just a player being moved because Fernando Tatis Jr. Fernando Tatis Jr. was a shortstop coming up. He played his first couple of years in the big leagues, and they moved him to the outfield when he came back from suspension. Basically, you're now an outfielder, and they made it happen to where they signed Xander Bogaerts to play shortstop. And what did Bogaerts now do? Bogaerts is being moved to second base. Bogaerts was a really good shortstop in Boston, and they're saying, no, you're going to be a second baseman now. So there's a stretch right now for some reason that shortstops are viewed to be more versatile instead of being as we say, the captain of the defense, the quarterback, the point guard, the guy who controls the infield. They're not asked really to be that way anymore because you want versatility to move guys around if you need to be able to do so. So yeah, it's really. If you compare it from the 90s and 2000s, it's very different and it's very off-putting because what you were supposed to get, the best athlete on the field or one of the best athletes on the field is the shortstop position. And I don't see that being the case right now. But again, the next generation is showing that can be the case. When you're getting O'Neal Cruz, I'll throw his name out there because, again, who probably long-term would be a better outfielder because of his length and size, but his athleticism says that we can use him as a shortstop. So I'm excited to see what this next generation of kids in the big leagues who play shortstop can do to hopefully rejuvenate that value of the position.
I'm going to sound silly because I feel like I should know this answer. The kid from Cincinnati.
Ellie De La Cruz.
He's still their shortstop, right? Mm-hmm. I know he's played second base a little bit, but they got a log jam at shortstop and second base. They got like 3 or 4 guys over there on Cincinnati that can play both those positions. So I don't know what they're going to do moving forward because they got some young talent up the middle on the defensive side of the ball up there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz is another one who's basically very similar to O'Neal Cruz, and from Pittsburgh, who's a tall, long, lanky kid, but freak of an athlete, great speed. Again, probably you could say would be a better outfielder just based off of that, of that side of it. But again, he's 6'5", 200 pounds, kind of, and I'd say 200 soaking wet. He's not really a 200 pounder, but probably about 190 is what I would say, which again, if you're 6'5", 190, that's still a good size. O'Neal Cruz is the same way. They're freak athletes, but they're allowing them to be shortstops right now, which is, again, that is an old school mindset. If you have your best athlete, go put them in shortstop or could put them in center field. Could you get value out of both of them in center field too? Absolutely. I think because they both have cannon of an arm, so both fast as can be. I think they could be really good center fielders. But right now, let them play the position that they're comfortable with, and that's shortstop.
JG, always a pleasure here, sir. We will see you later on the week, all right?
Appreciate the
Sounds good, guys. And actually, Thursday probably won't be. I'll confirm with you guys tomorrow. We're traveling. We have a game on Thursday. We're going to be traveling. So at the moment right now, I'll keep you all updated on what Thursday's schedule will look like.
All right, JG, we appreciate you, sir.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Mo, always a pleasure having JG here on the morning show with us. Once again, you can see JG over there, Sports Empire Network. Make sure you're checking out everything that the Empire has to offer. Mo, let's talk a little NBA basketball stuff. So, LeBron James, before we get to this, this is tough for me, Mo, because as a parent, and maybe you agree with this, you always want to defend your kid, right? You see your kids going through something, and you're like, let me step in there and set the record straight. No one's going to talk bad about my kid, right? As a parent, you kind of take it a certain way. I mean, I picked up my toddler from daycare last week, and she brings this puppy to daycare. It's a whole thing. She has every time we see a puppy, we have to buy her a puppy. And she has 18 puppy stuffed animals. And it's a whole process in the morning before we go to daycare of which puppy she's bringing to school. It's a whole thing. So I go to pick her up last week, and the puppy is in a cabinet. And I'm thinking, great. She got in trouble with the puppy. She wasn't sharing it or some nonsense. And the teacher's like, no. She was fine. We just had one of her friends kept trying to go over to her cubby and take her puppy. And Mo, it just clicked out. In my mind, I was like, friend? You call that a friend? What kind of friend steals a girl's puppy? I was like, in my mind, I'm like, well, hang on there. These are 2-year-olds. Calm down.
Right.
But in that moment, Mo, I was like, how dare you call this a friend?
Right.
Who are you friends with, Miss Teacher?
Right. I love how the teacher tried to tamp things down to go, well, one of her friends.
Right. What kind of company are we keeping? So we all see what Bronny's doing at USC, right? And we all see the numbers, and we all see the stats, and we all see, the mock drafts. Is he even going to get drafted? Is he going to go the free agent route? Which, by the way, would it be the end of the world if Bronny went as a free agent? I don't think it would. And, I'm sorry, LeBron, but you keep saying things like, I wish I could play with my kid. Wouldn't it make that a lot easier if he was a free agent and could sign wherever he wants? Wouldn't that just make the process of you two ending up on the same team a little bit easier?
100%.
Just saying. But obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about Bronny. There's been a lot of criticism about Bronny. And I'm sure LeBron has seen it as well. I'm sure that people are adding LeBron as well as they're critiquing his son because, people are like that, Mo. But LeBron apparently has had enough. So he came out yesterday on Twitter and he said, can y'all please just let the kid be a kid and enjoy college basketball? The work and results will ultimately do the talking no matter what he decides to do. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care that what a mock draft says. He just works. It's earned, not given. And to all the other kids out there striving to be great, just keep your head down, blinders on, and keep grinding. These mock drafts doesn't matter one bit. I promise you, only the work matters. Let's talk real basketball, people. I get it, Mo. I get it. You're seeing your son take a lot of muck. You don't think he deserves it. You think he's better than what his numbers are. But Mo, at the end of the day, is it really a good look when daddy has to step in and defend you? That's ultimately where I am. At the end of the day, it's hard. Isn't it hard enough being LeBron James's son, playing the same sport that LeBron James plays, knowing that no matter what you do, once you leave college basketball, and it's already happening in college basketball, even though LeBron didn't play college ball. But God forbid, if LeBron did play college ball, we'd be putting those numbers side by side. Oh, here's what LeBron did his first 10 games in college. Here's what Bronny. We can't do that. So all we do is we just look at Bronny's numbers and say, don't know what this is going to look like when he gets this. His dad wouldn't have been putting up these numbers. It's already happening, and LeBron doesn't even have college numbers to compare him to. So you know that once he gets to the NBA, that's all it's going to be. Bronny versus LeBron. Bronny, what did LeBron do his first year? What did Bronny do his first? He already has to deal with that, Mo. But now daddy's going to come in and fight his battles for him. I get it. I get why LeBron did it. I understand it. But at the end of the day, if you're Bronny, you got to be sitting there like, come on, Dad. Just let it go. It's fine. It is. Because we know mock drafts don't matter. We know that all the talk leading up to where a player is going to end up doesn't matter. And we know that ultimately at the end of the day, if Bronny makes it to the NBA and he plays halfway decent, that's good. That's going to be good enough. But until that happens, it happens to everyone, Mo. It's happening to Caleb Williams right now. It's happening to every prospect because of either they earned it because of their stats or they've fallen into it because of their name. Every prospect that has some sort of value, stat-wise or name-wise, goes through this. And that's why Bronny's going through it. I don't know if LeBron coming in helps the situation any.
I think, like you said, he's being a dad. He's seeing his son take heat, and I certainly can understand where he's coming from. But I think you laid out the key issue in all this. It is hard enough being LeBron James' son and playing basketball. Like if Bronny were LeBron James' son and he was a second-year law student, we would just let him be and he'd live his life. But the fact that he's going down the same path, trying to make it to the NBA, there's going to be people they're going to come at him. That's what people do. They come at you, and when you're the father of an all-time great player, arguably he's no doubt a Mount Rushmore player. Many would say he's the greatest player. All that on your shoulders, that's your dad. That's hard enough. That's hard enough. And like you said, if he comes into the NBA and he's just a good player, I'm not even talking about an all-star, but if he's just a good player, I think that would be a lot because it's not just the physical grind of competing or what your talent level is. There's a mental grind for any prospect, but the mental grind of being LeBron James' son, I can't even imagine. Like, I know LeBron is like, he doesn't care about mock drafts. I guarantee you he does.
He does.
He does. He absolutely does. And you know the line where he doesn't read all that crap you guys say about him. Of course he does. Of course he does. He wouldn't be human if he didn't. So I'm pulling for the kid strictly because he's trying to go over like Mount Olympus, not trying to be as good as his father, but just to be good enough to get into the league and be a good player. To me, that would be an achievement. I actually think I've watched him play. I've seen the film. I think he's gifted defensively already. Incredible quickness, great reaction time, can pressure the ball 84 feet. He's terrific that way. The struggle for him will be, is he going to be a complete starter or is he going to be a situational player like Gary Payton Jr.? And even if you are, what if you're a situational player like Gary Payton Jr., but you earn a reputation of being an elite defender? I still think I'd give all the props to him. I just think that LeBron coming in and trying to do the right thing, I'm not sure that helps the kid at all.
Not at all, Mo. Other NBA news, there was a little bit of a ruckus in the NBA last night at the end of the Knicks and Detroit Pistons
I watched that game.
And before we get into this, Mo, I will tell you right now, if you are an NBA fan and your takeaway from this was, well, it's just Detroit, you're part of the issue. If you're going to start sitting here and saying things like, based on whatever team was playing, the outcome should matter more or less, then right. you are part of the issue, and you need to remove yourself from the conversation, because it doesn't matter, Mo, who is playing as far as what the teams are. But if you didn't see the game last night, it was a close game, very competitive game against the Pistons and the Knicks. There was a missed call at the end of the game last night. It was a very obvious call that should have taken place that was not called by the officials. And Mony Williams was not irate, but he was very upset. He was big mad. He was big mad about it in the press conference after the game. And he took about, 70 seconds to walk in, address it, speak his mind, and he left because he had nothing else to say on the matter because he was upset about it. He wasn't disrespectful. He didn't cuss. He didn't yell and scream. But he basically said that I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do when I continuously follow NBA procedures. I send in tape. I clip stuff. I fill out the forms. I do all this stuff that the NBA says, hey, do this if you want to see change. Do this if you want us to look at stuff. Do this if you want the process to get better. Well, he's been doing it. He's been doing it all season. And then you have stuff like this happen in a game. And I get it. His team's not very good. His team doesn't win a lot of basketball games. They could have won the game last night, Mo. And I understand why he felt the way that he felt. And I don't know if he was being hyperbolic when he said, I have players who come to me and they're like, Coach, what more can we do? I don't know if that actually happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But the point here, Mo, the NBA missed the call last night. And it's not the first call they've missed this season. And it's not the last call they're going to miss this season. So I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment here on the morning show and pretend that, the Detroit Pistons were completely robbed last night and this is a great injustice. It was a missed call for sure. But overall, what can the NBA do? Because baseball misses calls, football misses calls, the NHL misses calls. This is an issue across all sports. We were just talking about it a few weeks ago with the Super Bowl and all the holding calls that weren't called. And there's two sides to that. There's the side of, let them play. Just let them do their thing. And then there's the side of, I want them to play. But Jesus, when someone's, putting someone in a sleeper hold as Mahomes is making a critical play down the field, we probably should call that one. And in the NBA last night, you're like, oh my God, when someone's literally flipping somebody over their head, clearly taking out their legs in a critical moment at the end of the game, maybe we should call that one and not just let them play. Like, it shouldn't turn into a WWE match the last 15 seconds of a game because we just want to let them play. Where is the line here, Mo? Because, Gene's joking around, but he did. He tackled him. He took him out. It wasn't incidental contact. It wasn't two guys are running and just didn't see each other. No, he knew what he was doing. He took him out, Mo, and he didn't get the call. So where is the line that we should be looking at moving forward? Because we know where Mony's coming from, and we don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but it is an issue.
It is an issue, but like you said, calls are going to be missed. And they've got the replay and the reviewer system out there. And I thought that system is supposed to catch moments like this. And the strange thing is, in real time, I'm watching the game. You would have to be blind to need the reviews. DiVincenzo made a tackle that I wish the Niners safeties could make. He took him out that clean and no call. And I get where Mony Williams is coming from. And I thought he alluded to this. it's no secret the Pistons are a bad basketball team.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean by default because they're a bad basketball team that they shouldn't get calls. Like, you can't go, it's just the Pistons. What I thought Mony was alluding to was we've been getting a bad whistle all year because people go, it's just the Pistons. You're supposed to lose. And it shouldn't play out that way. And I think I draw the line on that. I don't care if they're playing the Celtics, and by far the Celtics are the better team. Both teams should get the same whistle. I'm not going to kill the refs because they do miss calls. It's disappointing because they have a system in place that's supposed to catch what you miss. And I love how after the fact the NBA puts out a statement. Well, yeah, we missed a call.
Yes, it happens.
It was a loose ball, and Cunningham got to it before DiVincenzo took it. I mean, they just blew it off like it just happens. Yes, you can admit it after the fact, but here's what won't change: that loss still counts on Detroit's record. And you're talking about a team, Chris, who's only won 8 games.
Yeah.
So any win they can get is a big deal for them. It matters. It matters to those players. They're playing against a Knicks team that's been one of the harder teams in the league, and they're right there. You don't think that matters to them that they had them, that they should have won that game? It's a tough road. It's a tough road to hoe, but I'm like you. I don't want to be too much prisoner in the moment. And I don't know what the NBA can do to improve upon this because all referees, there's going to be human error in the moment.
Correct.
You just hope in a perfect world that the referee's human error doesn't decide a game.
And let's be honest, if this was a playoff game, if this was the NBA Finals, it would be getting a lot more attention right now. But like you said, Mo, it was the Detroit Pistons. So NBA fans are not outraged.
At all.
The only people who are outraged are Detroit Piston fans. And even some of them are just like, oh, well, happens to us. You know, like even Detroit Piston fans this morning are like, it is what it is. It's been that kind of season.
You're spot on. Piston fans are even go like, well, that's pretty much how it goes for us. So I don't care.
We got some NFL stuff on the docket here, Mo. Let's start with this. Sean McDermott came out and he said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the Buffalo Bills are going to win a Super Bowl. Mo, I have no issue with Sean McDermott coming out and saying that he thinks his team is going to win a Super Bowl. I'm okay with that. You should be coming out and saying that. When you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, you should be coming out and saying that it is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. And we are going to win a Super Bowl sometime in the near future. But Mo, let me ask you this. Do you honestly think the Buffalo Bills, with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott as their head coach, are going to win a Super Bowl with the two of them still together?
No.
That's crazy.
But I do agree with him. I do think at some point Buffalo is going to win a Super Bowl. I would just argue that he might not be the coach at the time.
I mean, odds are at some point they're probably going to win one.
Sure. Like, they're look, if any city is due with their history and stuff and all the misery they've had to endure, it's Buffalo. It is Buffalo. And I'm agreeing with Sean McDermott. I'm just concerned that he won't be part of it.
I will say this though, if it doesn't happen in the next 3 or 4 years, I don't know if it's going to happen in this cycle for the Buffalo Bills. And by this cycle, I mean the Josh Allen cycle. Josh Allen, for all, and everyone knows I'm not the biggest Josh Allen guy, but this is a fair take. So listen to me. Josh Allen, the brand of football that he plays, very Cam Newton-like, takes a lot of punishment. His body takes a lot of abuse. And we don't see quarterbacks like Josh Allen, quarterbacks like Cam Newton. And I'm not saying they're the same talent. I think Josh Allen is tremendously more talented than Cam Newton is as far as throwing the football goes. But that doesn't take away the fact that Josh Allen's body takes a lot of hits. So there comes a point when you play that kind of football as a quarterback, Mo, where when things start to fall off, they tend to fall off quickly. So you look at Josh Allen, and I have no issue saying that he is still going to be what he is right now for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And then I think we're going to see him start to fall off. And when he starts to fall off, I think it's going to happen rather quickly. And then it's going to be over. I think that's a fair take. I don't see Buffalo winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. I just don't. So
it's a fair take because he's a high collision quarterback too. Like he takes a lot of he take hits that running backs take. And I don't think that bodes well in terms of how he's going to age. Look at the Steelers. I wouldn't call Big Ben a scrambler. He was more of a guy that extended plays, but he took a beating in
his last 3 years were horrible.
Right. And he thank you. He played 3 years, 3 too many. Like but that was because of everything that he endured leading up to that. That you knew that was not going to end pretty. And I agree with you. Josh Allen's career, it's going to end very similar. So you might have a strong point. Look, if we're talking a 5-year window, I'm not saying that they're not going to be a contender. I think they'll always be contenders. Do I feel good about them winning a Super Bowl? I don't.
I think the window was there. I think it was like a legitimate 2-year window with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's already passed. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be contending for divisions. I'm not saying they're going to fall off the map completely, but I just don't see them doing it in a league where you have on that side in the AFC Mahomes. I think you're going to see a new crazy version of Herbert. I just think there's too much other quarterback talent on the AFC side
with Burrow and Lamar, and I'm with you. I take nothing away from Josh Allen, and maybe he will win a Super Bowl. Maybe it won't be as a Bill.
Yeah, could be. I agree. The NFL is looking. It's rule change time. The NFL, Mo. They're looking to get rid of the hip tackle. We've talked about this earlier in the season. I think we're both on the same page. Neither of us are big fans of guys having their weight come down, their legs bending backwards.
No,
so many players were injured this season because of that. So I think we're on the same page when it comes to that. But one of the rules that is not going to be changed, or at least it's not getting a lot of momentum to be changed, is the fumble through the end zone rule. Currently, the way it works, if you fumble the ball and it goes in and out of the end zone, the other team gets the ball. You do not retain possession of it. And we saw this a couple times this year where guys were reaching out, going into the end zone. The ball's popped loose at the half-yard line. It bounces in and out of the end zone, and now they lose complete possession of the ball. So that entire drive down to the half-yard line goes away because the ball bounced 2 feet to the right of the pylon as opposed to 2 feet to the left of the pylon. People say that's not fair. It shouldn't be judged on where the ball bounces. If the other team didn't recover it, then the team that fumbled it should just keep it. For me personally, Mo, I don't care. If you want to keep the rule, fine. You want to change the rule, fine. For me, I am not anywhere near this hill as far as how much I care about this rule. So do what you want to do.
I'm not either. I mean, look, sure you can complain, but you're complaining if you're the team that fumbled at the goal line. I get why you're mad.
Don't fumble the ball.
Don't fumble the ball, right? That's all I would say. Don't fumble the ball. Protect the football, and you guys are probably going to score. That's where I'm at. But this is not there. There are some rules that can be changed. This one right here, I lose no sleep over.
Zero sleep at all. The Cardinals on social media are putting a lot behind QB1 and Kyler Murray. They got some new graphics out supporting Kyler as we head into draft season. Obviously, we know why they're doing it. They want to erase any speculation that they could be looking at quarterbacks heading into the draft, and Kyler Murray is their guy. I'm a big fan of it, Mo. I think Kyler should be their guy. I don't think they have to put on a press tour to show that Kyler is their guy. But if they want to make him feel special, that's perfectly fine with me. I think they need to get some talent around Kyler Murray. I think they need to get an offensive line around Kyler Murray. I think they need to get some actual playmakers around Kyler Murray. So hopefully they do all those things. But I think Kyler is where he needs to be, which is at QB1.
No, I'm with you. I think that Kyler Murray, with the right talent around him, can be an impactful player in this league. We've already seen it. We've seen glimpses of it. But right now, you look at that roster top to bottom, especially across that offensive line, which is one of the worst in football, and they don't really have any explosive playmakers on the outside as well. Like, I think that you have to build out that roster around him, and I think that Kyler Murray, I think he can be an impactful player. Like I said, he's not your stereotypical drop back passer, but he's not that because obviously, one, he's undersized, but two, he's actually an elite athlete too. So with his quickness, with his underrated arm strength, I think Kyler Murray can be an elite quarterback with the right talent around him.
Before we get out of here today, Mo, we have a morning show mailbag to get to. Today's mailbag comes from Quentin. Quentin says, can we all just agree that Cam Newton is the greatest ringless quarterback of all time?
No, because this is a guy named Dan Marino. So let's end the conversation there, Quentin. Enough. Stop it. And if I don't go Marino, there's Warren Moon Quentin, and there's Dan Fouts Quentin. I mean, there's a long line of look. To a lesser degree, I don't think Cam Newton had a better career than Donovan McNabb Quentin. I mean, you're Quentin. You have to stop. Is this really Quentin, or is this a burner account from Cam?
Mo, there are quarterbacks in the league today who are better than Cam Newton who haven't won a ring yet. Joe Burrow is a better ringless quarterback than Cam Newton.
Yes, he is.
I would argue that Lamar Jackson, the two-time MVP, is a better ringless quarterback than Cam Newton. I don't really care for Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen is a better ringless quarterback than Cam Newton.
Yes,
and these are guys who are only 5 or 6 years into their careers. And I think they're better than Cam Newton.
Let me ask you this, because I think Jalen Hurts is better than Cam Newton too. Right?
I agree.
That's not even close. That. And so is it controversial to go like I think Dak's better too, right? Isn't he? Isn't Dak better?
I think Dak's better too. Dak's a better thrower of the football.
Now here's one that'll make people go, "You're crazy, Mo. You don't know football." I think Kirk Cousins is better than Cam Newton. I do.
Mo, I get it. I feel you 100%. Cam Newton is in no even Mo. I don't even know. I guess Cam Newton is probably the greatest Panthers quarterback of all time. I guess he is.
Even though what's my
I like a little Jake Delhomme. I like me some Jake Delhomme.
Yeah.
But I guess Cam Newton is the greatest Panthers quarterback.
He is. Look, and I'm not. This is not Hammer Cam Newton Day, but when you make put out that question that he's the greatest ring, there are so many guys that were great that had greater careers that didn't win. And like I said, you're gonna lead off with Dan Marino, and we can stop having the conversation, man.
Quentin, terrible take. I appreciate it. I appreciate the take. Terrible take, Quentin. Quentin, come back to the mailbag later on this week. Redeem yourself.
We appreciate you.
That was not strong, sir. Mo, close us out.
Hey, thank you for everybody out there that's joining Chris and I this morning. Thank you for everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys so much. Check out all the great content that we have at Wire to Wire Network. Give us a like, a listen, a sub, follow us. Check out everything we have to offer to you guys at Wire to Wire Network.
Make sure you're back here same time, same place tomorrow morning. The NFL genius himself will be on the show. We got more things to talk about in the world of football. We might have Will on from Sports Empire to talk a little bit of basketball with us. All of that and more tomorrow morning. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Wire to Wire Network, and we will see you